Congressman Andy Biggs, welcome back to the program. How you doing today?
Jeff, thanks. Good to be with you. I'm doing all right.
Yeah, is there? The Freedom Caucus is battling for constitutional freedoms and so on and so forth. It's in short order today. Is there like 8 of you left? I mean, I hate to be negative, but geez.
Well, it's a fight worth having because
Yep.
it defines our country. I mean, in this country, without getting overly historical here, our country was built on the idea that every human being is a child of God that comes inherent with certain
Hi,
human
I'm
rights.
Congressman Andy Biggs.
And we're fighting that constantly because the 1619 Project, the indoctrination that's come in, the Frankfurt School. I mean, we could go through all of that, but what the left is trying to tell you is the government gives you the rights, and the government actually you have your rights as part of the collective, and that means that some people have fewer rights than others, some people are privileged more than others. That's still okay. In the American ideal, everybody has the same rights, and the government's job is to protect the rights so that we can each fulfill the entire measure of the purpose of our lives and our creation that we desire.
But the COVID madness, and I know I'm going to trigger somebody by saying that, but that's okay. We do that every day. The COVID madness, I mean, we're looking at the government and you and I have been talking about this since March, since there's been lockdowns, and these mayors and county supervisors and governors and folks in D.C. have gone crazy with power. Now you see here in Arizona, Tucson, curfew from 8 or 10 p.m. The mayor wanted it to be 8 p.m., but it's from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. Starting on Friday the 4th, running for 3 weeks. Unheard of. What is that going to do? I mean, what do you think about what they're doing in Tucson? Is that spreading?
Well, that notion, that's an entirely authoritarian, liberal notion. And quite frankly, it shows kind of a lack of scientific understanding. I mean, what you're telling me is that people who are out after 10 p.m. Somehow the virus is smart enough to get at you, and all these other precautions that they ostensibly are doing help, but the lockdowns never help. I'm baffled at what authority she thinks she has to do that, whether she thinks she's got statutory authority. If this is truly an emergency, why is it a 3-week-long emergency? She's basically abusing her power. And in America, I'm watching this COVID thing, and I see a lot of people who have quickly become acquiescent to the tyrannical abuse of authority by the petty tyrants who are in office.
Well, Andy, I think people are crying for it. I mean, there's people like you and me, a lot of my listeners, a lot of folks out there, but a lot of people are applauding this stuff. Look at, I go to bed, before I go to bed last night, check the news, and I see the Los Angeles mayor declaring a lockdown, basically stay in your house. I mean, there's all kinds of exceptions, but when people hear, you better stay in your house, a lot of people comply and just do it. And people are applauding this stuff, Congressman.
Yeah, it's not governance. It's rule by fear. It's basically you scare the crap out of people, and then you take away their rights. And I'm still arguing for, and I think it is the right thing, is to let me as a rational adult. You may disagree with my rationales, but that's fine. That's part of a free society. But you allow me to assess and mitigate the risks. We do that before the COVID. We did that on a regular basis during every flu season, where you have millions of people get sick and you have tens of thousands of people succumb to the flu. We did that for them. We did it for virtually every aspect of our lives. And now basically people believe that they cannot make these decisions on their own, and that you shouldn't. Moreover, they don't think you should make the decisions on your own. And so this is the old thing that the founders talked about. You can have this is Jefferson, who said, those who want security and freedom will never be and can never be. And you can't have freedom and an absolute 100% safety. Otherwise, we'd all be bubble wrapped and would receive IV fluids and stuff. You just can't do it. The world is not meant for that. The world is meant for us to be sick and overcome and deal with these issues.
Yeah, and they would. I think they want. They'd really like you bubble wrapped. I think, Congressman.
Yeah.
The media. I mean, the you got this letter that went out saying that Arizona should lock down for 3 weeks. And there's this pressure on Governor Ducey. I'm trying to get the governor back on. I've been pretty negative on some of the things he's done. Right now, though, it seems like Governor Ducey's holding firm as far as keeping the state open and not succumbing to this stuff like he did earlier in, this this whole thing back in March, April, May, et cetera. Do you think we'll hold firm here in Arizona, or are you concerned that this is going to flip back to lockdowns and shutdowns? Or do you think the governor's going to hold firm? I know you can't speak for him, but, or have you had any conversations with him on this issue?
No, he and I he doesn't talk to me anymore. I guess I've been too critical. So I get his chief of staff, and I don't know what he's going to do. But I would just tell you this: I would urge him not only to hold firm against these lockdowns, which, by the way, empirical data shows they don't work, and actually they're a bit greater harm.
Mm-hmm.
But not only should he do that, but he should actually loosen things up again to allow people to have the choices to be free. Also, if you want to get a feel for the data that's being reported, continues to be reported by Kara Chris and the Arizona Department of Health Services, which I have developed a very skeptical attitude towards them. I mean, they're not talking about actual cases or of hospitalizations or deaths or even positives. They're talking about positives or seems to be. They give themselves such a big statistical and data hole to drive a truck through to manipulate whatever they want to manipulate. And I mean, just you can see that even the data that they do put out, though, lets you know that while things have, number of cases, number of hospitalizations increasing, you don't know what's driving those hospitalizations. Is it the flu, or is it the coronavirus? Is it a flu that's being diagnosed as the coronavirus? Because they don't give you very specific data points.
Okay. Yeah, and we honestly, a lot of us just don't trust it anymore.
Yeah,
we don't trust
right.
anything that's coming out because it's always changing. Now the quarantine period, I hear, is reduced, which always never made sense to me, because usually when you get the crud, whatever it is, it's a few days and you either got it or you don't. I'm not a doctor, Congressman, but now it's 10 days supposedly. So it gives uncertainty to all of us in trusting any of the data, is what I'm trying to say.
No,
all
that's
right.
right.
Yeah. All right, folks. We're talking with Congressman Andy Biggs. Congressman, let's switch to obviously still battles going on regarding the election. You've been pretty outspoken with regard to the election, the results, the presidential side. We've got, the House. It looks like it's a pickup for the Republicans, although the Democrats will still maintain control. The Senate is hanging on Georgia. When is that? Is that this month, or is that January for that runoff?
January 6th is the runoff date.
Okay. So, I mean, those early ballots must be dropping then. I would
Ballots
imagine.
are already dropping. Yeah,
Okay.
Ballots are already dropping. They're already doing early balloting in Georgia. Mm-hmm.
Does it matter? I mean, let me back up for a second. I mean, it matters that the GOP holds this, but if the GOP picks up the 1 seat or the 2 seats, there's still some members in the Senate, even if it's GOP controlled. I think they're going to flip easy. If Biden's in there in the House, Democrats want to do something, I think there's a few that'll flip pretty dang easy.
Well, it's critical that we hold it because we can control appointments and other simple majority issues, so we could control that. That's why it's imperative that we get to 51.
Okay.
But on the other hand, you're right on so many issues. You've got Susan Collins of Maine, Lisa Murkowski from Alaska. You got Mitt Romney from Utah. Those are your triumvirate of people who will flip pretty easily. And then there's probably another host of about 10 or 12 that are squishy and will flip on a lot of things in the Senate. But they flip anyway. The only thing they've been tough on, and the reason they've been holding, is because of President Trump. Look, you've got people who are in the Gang of 8: Lindsey Graham, Paul Ryan, Chris Christie, Amy Klobuchar, 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 Marco Rubio, who are already talking about supporting if Biden were to take the seat on January 20th, they will support his call to give amnesty to 30 million people immediately.
Yeah.
That's what you have, and that's what we're facing in the Senate.
And then just on the stimulus side, that the financial side that you and I have talked about, well, instead of being a $900 million stimulus, let's compromise and let's make it $2 trillion or what. I can see that.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just how much poison do you want? And you and I think you are still against these stimulus packages that seem to do pretty much nothing.
Right. I mean, look, the data point I got last week was that there's still $500 billion from the last package that hasn't been distributed. And they want to add on top of that $900 billion.
Yeah.
So you still are talking $1.4 trillion that they want to throw out there. When you have a $30 trillion national debt, you've got a structural deficit that's last year was over $5 trillion, and this year's going to be around $3 trillion unless we start bringing it under control. And the Democrats are certainly not going to do that.
I'll take $1 billion, Congressman. I mean, I'll create jobs with that. I mean, just send it. I'll give you the address once we're off air.
I'm just telling you. At some point, you just write a check to everybody for $1 million and call it good, and then watch the inflation kick in, because that's really what is. We are holding inflation in abeyance right now, but that can get more and more difficult as you devalue our currency.
Well, yeah, they have a target of 3%. They want people's, savings to erode by 3% a year, or whatever it is, 2 or 3%.
Right. It's 2. It's effectively 2 right now, and they're talking about increasing it to 2.5. So
yeah. So that's basically that tax. We could go down that road and spend hours, and I know we don't have that much time. I do want to get to something on the economic side and on the with the Fed wallet, but I want to follow up here though. And folks, talking with Congressman Andy Biggs, who's chairman of the House Freedom Caucus. If we make some assumptions here, let's assume Biden becomes president. I know what they say about assuming. GOP has the Senate, Democrats have the House. Are we looking at a national lockdown? Would Biden have that power to do that? Would there be the will in Congress? Are we looking at a national mask mandate? I mean, what's the horror story here if that scenario plays out, which is probable?
So if you have a Biden administration, he's going to try to do a lot of these things by executive order, because ostensibly if the Republicans keep the Senate, then they're not going to necessarily come in with a nationwide mask mandate. I don't even think Murkowski, Collins, or Romney will come with a nationwide mask mandate. Don't think that'll happen. Okay. I don't think they would also support a national lockdown. That's going to be done or attempted to be done by Joe Biden. I mean, he's going to attempt to do amnesty by an executive order. So he's going to attempt to do all these things by executive order. What I've been trying to make clear to our leadership in the House is that we have to understand that we're going to have to, because we're in the minority in the House, we're going to have to litigate this stuff.
Yeah.
We're going to have to go into the courts and say, these executive orders exceed the boundaries of the separation of powers. He doesn't have the authority to do that. And you're going to see the Freedom Caucus. I mean, we talked about this last night, and I won't get into the specifics about strategy. But we have got to be leading and fighting on this, because if a Biden, heaven help us if a Biden administration gets there, but if there isn't a Biden administration, we've got to be ready to fight it in the courts, in the court of public opinion, through process rules and regimes in the House of Representatives itself. We need to make sure that we are working with outside groups that have access to narrative creators, that have access to litigators as well. So we got to fight this thing, and we're going to keep fighting. And that's what I would say about anybody who's listening to this. Know that there is a group of us that will not stop fighting.
Good.
Number one, and number two, we can't. I ask all of you to not stop, to keep fighting as well, to keep the faith, keep the hope, because if we're going to save this country, which is, by the way, it is worth saving. It is the last best hope. And Reagan was right. If we lose these freedoms, it's not easy to get them back, and we're going to see them attacked. We've already been seeing them attacked for a generation or so now. we have got to fight back harder and harder.
And I can tell you just from the calls that come in from my listeners, Congressman, people are motivated and they're fed up. I just had my 1,000th show, and you start thinking about.
Congratulations!
Thank you. Yeah, and it's been a long couple of years, but it charged me up though after Thanksgiving break that, hey, we got to keep fighting this. So charge me up for another 1,000 or so. we'll see, right? Okay, Congressman, I know you got to go soon, but I want to hit on this final topic here because we did talk about the economic side. It's 30 trillion in debt, all kinds of things, all other obligations that are due, and a country that's in trouble for pension issues, and we could go on all day. 2.5% target of inflation, which is to erode your money, your purchasing power. But now there's this push, and I don't know how familiar you are with it, the Banking for All Act, and it's the Fed wallet, and it's really this push to get to a digital currency. You know much about it, and where is that?
I don't know where it sits right now. Right now, as we're trying to sort out what's happening here, there should be nothing happening on that, is my understanding, in the lame duck.
Okay.
If that happens, it's going to be fired back up maybe in January, and then they'll try to rock and roll with that from there. And then part of that depends on the shakeout in the Senate. Part of it depends on the shakeout with the president.
But there's this push to kind of juice the economy even more, rather than doing this stimulus, which takes months or half a year or a year to get into the economy. There's this idea of the Fed wallet and a digital currency, and especially with, these ideas like from Andrew Yang. Remember all this stuff, the money, the modern monetary theory, all that stuff, where you're going to get $1,000 a month or $2,000, where the Fed can just juice your wallets, your digital, like a digital currency. And people think this is real far-fetched, but they would have total control then of the whole economy at that point if they go down this road.
That's right, and we need to be loosening the control, not enhancing the control. And I just find myself baffled at this notion that giving a few very wealthy people more power over our economy is really the right way to go.
Yeah, I agree. All right, keep up the fight, Congressman. Like you said, it's worth it. And it didn't take a lot of people, when this country was formed. And there's a lot of people that are asking for free stuff and government control, but there's a lot of us still not doing that. I think there's still that silent majority. I hope so, at least, right?
Yes, and I believe there is. I still think that the U.S. is a center-right nation and will be, at least for another generation, just depending on how bad the indoctrination goes through our various institutions.
Yeah. All right. Congressman, appreciate it. We'll talk with you soon.
Thanks, Jeff. Take care.